although the ward was more like the standard interior of a child's room. Already in the first seconds of his stay here, the drug-soaked air was destructive. It was a misconception. He had disliked hospitals since childhood, as he had only unpleasant memories associated with such institutions. But he was forced to forget his own phobias when his young daughter Evelyn fell ill. Every day after work he visited the little girl, who had been eagerly awaiting him all day since his enforced separation. It had been almost 2 weeks now, and the little girl had become very homesick. Now Evelyn was also looking pleadingly into her father's eyes. "Daddy, when are you going to take me away?" "I'm not well here. I'm sick of the shots and pills." Liam kissed the little girl on the forehead and stroked the unruly strands of her hair. "Honey, we have to be patient a little longer." The doctor said that the girl suddenly turned to screaming. "Your doctor does not know anything, so he says one stupid thing, and you listen to him." "I want to go home." There was so much unchildlike desperation in the girl's voice that Michael involuntarily jerked on the rickety chair. He wanted to calm his daughter, but did not have time because his indignation at the behavior of the little patient was expressed by a young mother who was rocking the baby on a nearby crib. Breaking down into a shriek, the woman blurted out in a high-pitched voice, "When will it end? There are only crazy people in this ward. Shut your girl up, or I'll have to take care of her upbringing myself." Liam didn't expect such an outburst and was confused at first. That's why he didn't immediately realize that this young woman was talking about his little girl in such an inappropriate tone. But when he realized it, he wanted to respond in the same spirit. Only by a great effort of will, the man managed to suppress the wave of aggression that broke out. He turned around and emphasized politely said, "Dear, choose your expressions. At the moment you are not in a bazaar, but in a children's hospital. And the definition you used about my daughter is more appropriate for you." Michael spoke very calmly, but her opponent could not restrain herself. Her cheeks flamed and her eyes threw lightning bolts of righteous anger. She sank down sharply in her chair, risking to finally break the already flimsy piece of hospital furniture. Then, tactlessly jabbed her finger with a challenge, asked, "And who are you to dispose of here? Are you playing tough? I'm calling my husband now, and he'll clip your wings in no time." Liam threw a scornful glance, pressed into Evelyn's lump, and added, "And your little stinker he'll throw out of here," forgetting about her own child, whose interests she so zealously defended. The disgruntled woman had jumped up and rushed to the window with such alacrity that he feared for her life. "What are you doing? There are children here, except for Evelyn and the freak's 1-year-old baby." There were 2 other elementary school-aged girls in the room. The children were watching the adults fearfully, and Liam clearly realized that he was the one who had to bring the heated situation to a close. Saying nothing and to the hysterical mother, the man walked out the door madly. The native woman looked at Evelyn with distaste, then on the neck of each other's schoolgirls, and with the tone of a winner declared, "And I will teach you the rules of good manners. You will sit here, like mice." The woman did not have time to develop this thought further, because the door to the room opened, and Michael appeared on the threshold, accompanied by a nurse and a doctor. The latter addressed the Yankee with obvious subservience. Jenna, are you being rowdy again? What's wrong with you this time?" A mother's scream woke her own baby, and it spoke to the whole room. The woman snatched the baby out of the crib and began shaking it with such force that the nurse feared for its life. The girl jumped up to the mom and snatched the baby from her. "Jenna, what are you doing? You're obviously not right in the head. You need to get your nerves treated." Wilson snarled, "You fix your own nerves. I'm getting out of this. Benjamin, your hospital is all over the country.
The doctor and the nurse looked at each other.
Cheered up. Temporarily successful, the scandalized woman began to defiantly pack her things. He, too, watched her actions. His gaze did not like the young mother. What are you hatching money for? You think I don't know who you are? Your monkey praised here that her daddy is the director of the Philharmonic. I don't give a shit about your regalias and titles. My uncle will take your Philharmonic and that slim hospital. And if I please my husband, he will bring your insides out. The nurse tried again to calm the inadequate person down. Jenna, what are you talking about? Wilson literally ripped her baby from her. Get over here. You're not holding my son Olya. But, finding himself in the arms of his own mother, the baby again roared. The attending physician looked expressively at Michael, and he realized what his look meant. He went out into the corridor with his doctor, waiting to see what William would say, embarrassed and dumbfounded. Liam, for God's sake, I'm sorry about this incident, but you do realize that not everything depends on our desires and capabilities. But Shin was unwilling to accept the doctor's awkward apology. William, I have no intention of tolerating this mayhem. Perhaps if it were a personal matter, I could tolerate it. But this is my daughter's health we're talking about. Not only do your treatments have no effect, but your department is a mess, and you can't even say a word. That's boorish. The doctor looked apprehensively at the door that wasn't fully closed. Liam, I understand you perfectly well, and you understand me. This Wilson's relative works in the city administration, and her husband has all the local businessmen in one place. If I get involved, I'll be out of a job. And I have a family too. I listened to the doctor in the fall and nodded my head in agreement.
Perhaps I would have sympathized with you in another situation, but for me now, the most important thing is the health of my girl. The doctor picked up. I understand you very well, Liam, because I have 3 of them myself.
As for your daughter, believe me, we are doing everything we can. But so far we have not been able to determine the cause of her painful condition. Then send us to the region for an examination. If there are no such facilities in the city, I've asked you repeatedly. Liam, why ring the bell prematurely? We'll manage on our own, I assure you. I've already ordered a set of additional examinations. And then we have the opportunity to invite a specialized specialist from the region here. Then why didn't you do it before? Miller smiled. But why panic before the time? Your girl's tests are almost within normal limits. There are no serious abnormalities on the internal organs either. Michael only threatened the doctor to the wall with a look. If everything is so good, then why does a 5-year-old child faints? The doctor fervently assured. We will definitely look into it. To convince the disgruntled father, Miller whispered ingratiatingly. We'll make your girl more comfortable. We have a bed in a double room available today, and we'll move Evelyn there. This option suited Michael, but he decided to wait for the doctor's promised move to be completed, so that he would not have to meet this neighbor again. Liam decided to take a walk with his daughter. When he entered Wilson's room and saw him with a look, she was obviously eager to make another scandal, but he paid no attention to the neighbor. And to his daughter he said, Evelyn, get ready. Now we will go with you for a little walk. In the evening you will come to another ward. Wilson exhaled with relief. Thank God. At least the air will be cleaner. Apparently the young, scandalized woman changed her mind about leaving the hospital. But Liam didn't care much about that, as he felt relieved after the assurance of the attending doctor and his daughter. Evelyn looked at him with wide-open ease. Daddy, we're going for a walk. Then you can take me home. He smiled through Persephone, not dear. You need to heal a little more. Tears glistened on Evelyn's long lashes and bald head. Felt everything inside him shrink into another spiral. He took his daughter in his arms and held her so tightly, as if he was afraid that someone would dare to take away his main treasure. Liam kissed the little girl's face and whispered, Oh, we will go for a walk in the fresh air now. and then we will move to another room? The girl also whispered and asked Daddy, won't there be a single mom there? Liam did not immediately understand who the girl was talking about, but was staring at the neighboring crib. He guessed that Evelyn did not want to see him anymore. He reassured the girl, no, there you will be in the company of another little girl. Evelyn rejoiced in her sickness-weary face. It's time, she declared, slipping out of her father's arms and pulling on a warm sweater. Daddy, I'll get dressed quickly now. I'm a big girl now. The thought flashed through the man's mind how much she looked like Faina. The same eyes and smile. His heart responded with pain. The memory of his late wife. Michael had been widowed less than 2 years ago. Athena was a young and quite healthy woman. She never complained of ill health and led a fairly active lifestyle. Athena often boasted of her impenetrable immunity. No disease can take me because I have good genetics and I take care of my health. Many times, women colleagues warned her not to praise her, or else jinx herself. But Athena paid no attention to such warnings. She liked risk in general, saying that the feeling of danger turned her on. Liam had admired Athena as a woman and as a talented violinist from the very first day of their acquaintance. Their life together did not last long, only 8 years, but it was the happiest period in Liam's life. Fall. Before that fateful trip, the girl complained of a slight indisposition. Her husband anxiously asked her, Athena, can you stay home? The young woman even shamed her spouse. And this is offered to me by the director of the Philharmonic, Liam. If I do it now, then I will let down the whole staff. We will have to throw our numbers out of the program, and there was nothing to replace such a unit. In artistic life, force majeure circumstances often happened, so Michael, without hesitation, offered the best way out of a difficult situation. Your string ensemble can replace the Bionist trio. The trio. At the worst, you can invite soloists. Athena took offense. Liam, have you thought how I will look into the eyes of my team? Oh, you saw it disrupting people's plans. A day before the tour is cruel and wrong. I have to go to the drugstore to get some powders, and that's it. I'll be out of moping in 2 days. In the fall, I gave up. The tour plan was designed for a month, so Liam, for the time of his wife's absence, determined a young daughter to his mother. Probably 4 days had passed since Athena's departure when Emily called her son. Her voice trembled, and the man realized that something serious had happened. Liam, there's something wrong with your wife. The girls from her orchestra called and said she'd been taken to the hospital, but they wouldn't say what was wrong. Would you have called? I did. Autumn began dialing the phone numbers of the members of the troupe. Information about his wife's sudden illness was confirmed, and he flew the same day to Tula, where Athena was hospitalized. It turned out that she was placed in the infectious disease department of the city hospital, where entry is strictly forbidden, even to close relatives. Liam went around the offices, trying to get what he wanted, but one doctor advised him, "You're wasting your energy. They won't let you in where your spouse is anyway." He was angry enough to lash out at the doctor. "Why won't they let me in? My wife has a medic." With cool calmness, he said, "Right, and not the plague. She has another, no less dangerous infection. I won't hide from you that her life is on the line right now." Literally, that same evening, Athena died of lightning-quick meningitis. The deceased was not allowed to be taken home, and knowledgeable people advised her relatives to bury her in a closed coffin. This was also the opinion of her mother. Although once a person is dead, this deadly infection is no longer a danger. But unnecessary precaution never hurts. Autumn, in those sad days, was incapable of sound judgment. He obeyed his mother and allowed the coffin to be opened during the farewell ceremony at the cemetery. So Athena remained in his memory as he had last seen her. Beautiful and joyful. The media and the students. For many months, Liam had to get used to the idea that his beloved wife was no longer among the living. And in that moment of bleeding yesterday, she began to tighten little by little. A new misfortune came upon him. His little daughter was ill. He sat in the little square, watching Evelyn playing with passion on the playground with other children, and thought, "For what sins am I all this? Why is there an evil doom haunting my family?" It was a rhetorical question, as no one had a good answer to it. "Daddy, let's go! I'm very tired." Evelyn looked at him pleadingly. The little girl's face had taken on a dead marble hue. And this change horrified her father. "My little girl, are you ill again?" The little girl answered in a very grown-up way. "You don't worry so much, Daddy. I'm a little dizzy and my hands are shaking." See? The girl stretched forward her hands, and small convulsive underlines were visible. "That's it. Let's go back to base." Liam picked up his daughter in his arms again, and with a quick step headed for the central entrance to the medical facility. The city hospital was famous for its specialists throughout the region. After a major overhaul, advanced equipment was brought here, after which advanced methods of treatment and diagnostics were introduced here first in the region. Therefore, even residents of the regional center often turned to local doctors for help. Autumn also harbored certain hopes when his young daughter suddenly fell ill. But after 2 weeks of Evelyn's stay in the hospital, he was no longer so optimistic about the future. Miller ordered new tests every day. Evelyn was examined by different specialists, but the cause of her strange illness remained unknown. As always, it was Emily who shared her advice with my son in his time of need. "Liam, although I am far from medicine, I know that often even one day can make a difference. Frankly, I don't like this heaviness that Evelyn's attending physician has deployed." Glasses. You directly asked this Esculapa how much he should give him on the paw to take on the treatment of our girl properly. The mother's suggestion shocked the young father, because he had never taken money himself, and therefore he had no idea how to do it. He remembered the existence of paid medicine.
Mom, you're talking about fantastic things. Why would you put money in someone's paws when you can legally get quality treatment? I mean, fee for service? Emily shouted to Liam. Don't be so naive. Nowadays, you can't get a massage. And this applies also to paid medicine. And I believe that you should immediately take the bull by the horns and not run around in confusion. Talk to this Miller Price. Give him a good hint that his assistance will be rewarded. Autumn listened to his mother, but remained in his own opinion. He had assumed that he would not have to take Emily's advice. But after seeing his daughter's trembling hands, Liam decided to act. Together with Evelyn, he took the elevator to the 3rd floor, where the children's ward was located. Near the ward, where the girl was moved to, a nurse was already waiting for them. With obvious displeasure, the girl said, "Michael, where have you disappeared? I was already running around looking for you." The man calmly replied, "We were out for a walk." And the girl continued in the same tone, "Walking is good, but you should be warned. We have a strict regime, and I must know where my patients are. So next time, we will warn you. But now go to the room. It's time for Evelyn to take her medication." He made a warning gesture with his hand. "Wait, I'd like to talk to William. He's still here." The nurse raised her eyebrows in surprise, but refrained from asking.
"He hasn't left yet. Go to the order of the author." Miller was not surprised by Liam's appearance. Like an old friend, he offered the visitor. "Come in, please. I see you have some serious business with me." He did not beat around the bush, but asked the doctor a question straight in the forehead. "William, can you tell me straight out what it takes to get the process moving? How long can you marinate a child? I want my daughter to be counseled by competent specialists." Miller noisily sipped tea from a large cup. Liam, you're insulting me. Our department is staffed only by qualified doctors with extensive practical experience. In the fall, I realized that I had hurt the doctor's feelings and tried to correct my mistake. I'm sorry, I didn't phrase my question correctly. My daughter has been with you for 2 weeks now, and so far there has been no noticeable progress. And at the same time, her condition is deteriorating rapidly by the day. Therefore, I would like to speed up the process, and I am ready to pay. Starovoytov abruptly pushed back the cup and angrily asked, I am a doctor, and my vocation is to treat children, which I try to do by all available means. From excitement, the doctor blushed, and Austin realized that he had missed again. William, you have misunderstood me again. I trust you completely. That's not what I meant. Maybe we should go to a fee-for-service clinic. Perhaps you yourself among your acquaintances have a specialist who could quickly understand my daughter's illness. Petrovtsaka moved the cup to himself again and took a few sips. I understand you, Liam. Of course, I have such acquaintances, and we have plenty of paid clinics. If you insist, I'll try to arrange a consultation for your daughter. But I warn you in advance, don't get your hopes up. You could throw away a lot of money and get nothing in return. Unfortunately, that's what happens most of the time, although Miller didn't promise him anything definite. A new spark of hope flickered in her father's heart, and he looked into the room where Evelyn had already laid out her simple belongings. Daddy, you see, I've already done it all by myself. He praised the little girl. Well done. I have a real hostess. Where's your neighbor? Have you met her yet? The little girl wrinkled her nose. Yes, Daddy. Her name is Alice. The nurse called her for a shot. I like Daddy here better. Alice promised to teach me how to play. She has a real tablet. Daddy gave it to her for her birthday. You're going to give me a tablet too when I'm 8 years old. The little girl's eyes were filled with anticipation, and Liam said cheerfully, I'll give you a tablet and a lot of toys. You're only getting better, girl, Daddy said sadly. I try not to get sick, but I don't succeed. He hugged the girl tightly. Nothing, daughter. Everything will work out with you. You just have to believe in it. Although he himself was overcome by doubts, he tried to instill confidence in the heart of his little daughter, that any trouble can be overcome. Evelyn listened to her father with bated breath. She clutched to him with her fragile body, because she knew that only Daddy could protect her from everything bad. A few minutes passed, and Liam realized by the girl's equal breathing that she had fallen asleep. He gently placed her in the bed and left the room. The day had been so full of all sorts of events that Liam felt very tired. He headed for the elevator and started pressing the call button with irritation. But an employee who was passing by snidely remarked that you are late. Our elevator works until 19... And now it's already over 8:30. You'll have to walk down. He cursed to himself and headed down the corridor to the stairs of the emergency exit. But the woman stopped him again with a shout. On that side, the exit is closed. Follow me, or I'll show you the shortest way to freedom. Just a moment. Wait here while I throw off my robe and take my bag. The woman disappeared into some room, but immediately reappeared. The hallway was dark, and Liam didn't get a good look at the stranger's face. But by her voice, he guessed that she was no more than 30. After all, Autumn, like many musicians, had absolute hearing. The volunteer guide led him to the back exit. Now let's go downstairs. She clicked her heels briskly down the steps. He tried to keep up with his guide. The journey was over. In front of the door, painted with ordinary floor paint, the woman pulled the knob, exclaimed, "Damn it!" Noah had already tried to close our secret door. The companion immediately gave an explanation. Noah, we have two in one. He is both a janitor and a watchman. His shift starts at 8. He always comes early. A very responsible fellow. He did his best today, but I have a spare key just in case. The woman half-turned toward his host, and he saw her eyes sparkle with excitement in the semi-darkness. Liam felt like an adventurer for a moment. He even forgot about his fatigue and asked in a mysterious voice, "Are you on fire, Noah, for vigilantism?" The woman played along. "And on fire, too. Noah is very strict, so we will try not to get in his sight. Now, we will carefully open this door and then close it again." On the other hand, they soon made their way outside together. The stranger hid the spare key in her purse and smiled. "Well, there we are. The operation was a success, and we are free." He thanked the stranger. "Thank you. You've helped me out," the woman remarked cheerfully. "It's okay to help others. I wish you a safe trip home. I'll run too." With a quick step, she headed for the bus stop, her heels once again defiantly over the plinth and across the pavement. A stray thought flashed through Michael's mind. Surprisingly, these music-like sounds must be memorized, but no sooner had he finished this pleasant thought than Ethan reached his hearing. "What are you doing here?" "I asked you to leave us alone, Benjamin." He immediately recognized the voice of his recent companion and slowed down a little. He didn't want to be a witness to a family feud. But that there was only one path leading out of the hospital grounds. He saw a lanky man approach the woman he had said goodbye to only a moment ago and grab her roughly by the shoulders. "You don't lie to me. I have every right to." The woman broke free of his grip, cutting the insolent man off at half a word. "You don't have any rights anymore. You and I are divorced, and the judge has forbidden you to see your son because of your unworthy behavior. Stop drinking." "Then I'll let you see your son?" the man yelled. "Who the hell are you to tell me what I can or can't do?" He saw the lanky man grab the woman's hand where she held her purse, but his tone changed dramatically. Now he was pleading with her. "And I'll go away. Give me the bottle and I won't be here." The woman shouted indignantly. "Do you still have the conscience to ask me for a bottle? I can't get child support from you for months, and I have a child to feed." Liam could no longer remain a bystander. He shouted to her, "Liam, leave the woman alone." The long-haired man jerked sharply. "Who the hell are you?" He looked first at his ex-wife, then shifted his gaze to Michael. "Camille, is this your new Roxasha? It didn't take you long to grieve without your husband." Liam realized that a scandal was brewing and tried to calm the bully down. "Man, don't make waves. You better go your own way." Well, he didn't like the lanky one, then wear it in the dacha. Strong, intelligent. I'll break your horns right now. The tipsy provocateur took the fighters in his posture and prepared to strike Michael. But suddenly Camille pounced on him with fists. "I'll smash you myself now, asshole! I've had enough of you all my life. You've poisoned me now. You give me no peace." The woman threw indiscriminate blows, and the lanky man bent over, covering his face with his hands. "Camille, stop! You could hurt me, and then you'll go to jail." Liam found himself in a difficult situation. On the one hand, he could not calmly watch this unequal fight. But on the other hand, his interference in this process was also undesirable. But at the critical moment, an elderly man came to his aid. He came out of the bushes without paying any attention to Michael. He approached Longshanks from the rear and pulled him back. "Ethan, here you are again. You've been bothering me. You're looking for trouble. I'll get you in trouble in a jiffy." Liam realized that the suddenly appearing Superman was the Noahs who kept the hospital grounds in order. Despite his advanced age, the old man's grip was good, and the lanky man couldn't get free, no matter how hard he tried. He jerked hastily in the janitor's arms, pleading with him. Noah, come on, I'm going to her for all my soul. She, you're a normal man, you should understand me. The janitor let her victim go. And the idea. Ethan, while you're at it, hey, if you get violent, I'll call the police. They're tough guys. They'll pack you up quick and put you in jail for 15 days. This threat worked, and the troublemaker ran to the gate, but suddenly he turned back. Running up to the guard, Ethan again begged Noah was a man. At least give me a bottle of whiskey, the pipes are burning. The old man swung around and walked away. I'm not serving. The sight of Camille's ex-husband made Liam feel both pity and disgust. He took some change out of his pocket and shoved the money into his shaking hand. Longshanks, here you go. And I want your spirit out of here in a second. Ethan had an eye for the size of the sudden wealth. That's enough for 2 bottles. Thank you, brother. Noah looked at Ethan as he ran away and sussed with sadness in his voice. What vodka does to a man. He used to be a normal guy. He inappropriately asked, explain to the uninitiated, what is this secret drink called beer? The old man laughed. This wine is made at our factory from apples and berries. The raw materials are taken from the public, and they are not always of high quality. Hence the name beer worms. Noah grinned, but it can be healthy. I'm going to go. I have a lot to do. The old man disappeared into the bushes, and Liam was left alone with his new acquaintance. To lighten the mood, he said, You and I have had an evening of adventures? The woman agreed. That's true. But it wasn't much fun, at least not for me. Suddenly, as if by magic, the streetlights came on. And Liam looked at his new acquaintance with interest. And my beautiful name is unusual for you, Spring. I have a car here, and I can give you a ride. The woman was happy. Thank you. The last bus had already left, and it was a long walk. After a series of colorful adventures, fatigue once again fell on Michael's shoulders, depriving him of the desire to have heartfelt conversations. Camille, too, remained silent the whole way, thinking of her own thoughts. She said a polite goodbye to Liam when he dropped her off outside the house. Thank you very much. He smiled, and thank you too. Perhaps we'll see you again. I understand you work at the hospital. I have a daughter there, the woman replied thoughtfully. Yes. I work as a janitor. As you can see, it's an unenviable position. Does it matter? Mine shrugged. Probably not. She hurried toward the 2-story building, and Liam watched her for a while. This meeting awakened almost forgotten feelings in the man's soul, and he thought of the strange woman. Apparently, not everything in her life had turned out well. However, it is not difficult to understand. Just one look at the man who was her husband. It was only at her front door that Camille turned around. She saw Michael's car go around the corner, and she thought sadly, what a fool I'd been. I didn't even ask his name. Such a nice man. His wife was a lucky woman. She opened the apartment door, but before she could cross the threshold, Benjamin threw himself on her neck. Mom, what took you so long today? It's already dark, and I was afraid you wouldn't come at all today. Moi kissed my son too. Is it possible that I didn't come? It's just that I was a little late today, the boy said reproachfully. Yes, you were late. I was all alone when Daddy came, the woman asked anxiously. Well, you didn't open the door for him, did you? Benjamin pouted resentfully. I'm not a little boy. I know you can't open the door for Dad. He knocked, and I kept quiet, so he'd think no one was home. Then Wendy told him to go away and tell his mother the latest news. The boy immediately switched to topics more pleasing to him. Mommy, our teacher told us today about a doctor who first healed people and then became a saint. He had an interesting name, too. Benjamin wrinkled his nose, trying to remember the name of the legendary doctor. Miney told me. Did your teacher tell you about him? The boy exclaimed happily, aha, only he had another name. Yes, in the world his name was Mason. Benjamin was clearly shocked by his mother's knowledge. Manty had read about him too. The woman grinned. Yes, son. But I didn't learn about this man in high school. I was studying to be a nurse. The boy was intrigued. Then why are you working as a janitor? Her son's curiosity was beginning to annoy her. If you know too much, you'll get old quickly. It's late. It's their bedtime. I hope you did your homework. I wrote it all down in detention at school. Wendy checked it with me, said it was fine. We thought gratefully of the neighbor who had never refused her help. Wendy had been disabled since childhood and had no family of her own. But she enjoyed helping her neighbors, regardless of her limited mobility. Wendy had one leg significantly shorter than the other. Congenital defects did not prevent the woman from getting a higher education. At one time, she worked in a boarding school and then began to earn money by tutoring. After Camille's Heidekal's divorce, the neighbor took over the man and tutored him in English in her spare time. Several times Camille tried to thank Wendy, but she took offense. I don't need your offerings. It's a pleasure for me to study with Benjamin. He's a very clever, wonderful little boy. Such complimentary remarks about her son were pleasant to hear, but Camille tried not to abuse her neighbor's kindness and turned to her only as a last resort. Lately, however, when she had agreed to take on another part-time job, such cases had become more frequent. Camille cooked a quick dinner while Benjamin chattered away. Mom, I've already decided that when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor too. And who will you be treating? Did the boy have an answer ready? Children, of course. The last time I was at your hospital, I saw sick kids. I felt so sorry for them. The child's voice trembled, and the mother thought fondly that her son had a very kind heart. In his 7 years, my Benjamin knows how to be compassionate, thinks about other people's grief. Not all adults are capable of that. It's unfortunate. After dinner, Benjamin was very sour. He didn't want to play and kept beating up. Moy said with a chuckle, "Come on, future doctor, go to bed." Benjamin usually refused to follow the routine, but this time he obeyed his mother's instructions. He even put his things neatly on the chairs and laid down in bed. We noticed that the son was clenching something in his fists. She reached out her hand. "What are you crying about?" "Show Mommy." The boy dropped the palm of his hand and proudly said, "This is a lucky pin. Wendy gave it to me today. She said that when things get bad, you have to whisper a little and everything will change. We carefully picked up the unusual amulet. Benjamin, I'll put your pin on the table so you don't lose it." "Okay, Mommy." In a minute, the baby was already peacefully swam under a warm blanket. Moy tenderly kissed her son and left the nursery. She returned to the kitchen and poured herself some tea. Involuntarily, she remembered how, as a child, she and her mother had talked about their plans together in the kitchen. The neighborhood of Yubileni, where the Taylor family lived, was considered behind the janitors, Kolpinski. It had its own laws, and the city tried not to come here. The housing stock was predominantly two-story houses of post-war construction. Old people said that they were built by German prisoners of war. At first, the settlement was very dense, and 3 or 4 families lived in one apartment. When life in the country got a little better and citizens began to move into separate apartments, it was planned to demolish the old barracks. But someone brave in the city administration opposed such a decision, and the authorities agreed that after major repairs, these houses could still be used for several decades. So, the Taylor family became the owners of a separate apartment. And although the usable area was a little more than 30 squares, The mother, Camille, was happy with her daughter. Now you and I will live like two queens. We'll each have a room, and we won't have to run to the yard. The last fact especially pleased Vanessa, because for years of work in the hot shop of the bakery, she earned arthritis and a lot of other diseases. The woman pinned all her hopes on her only daughter and often dreamed during an evening tea party that you would finish my school and enter institutes. You are a clever girl. All your teachers praise you. You should study to be a doctor. A very necessary and respected profession. Vanessa did not spoil her daughter and got used to her daughter's unconditional obedience to all her instructions. And she never said a word against her mother because she was afraid to make her angry. For a very long time, the girl did not dare to break Vanessa's dreams. Only just before graduation, she dared to announce her plans. Mom, I don't like medicine at all. I'm afraid of blood, and one kind of instruments gives me horror. Mother indifferently asked, Nothing. A man gets used to everything, and you get used to it. Moi did not like this theory, and she sharply objected to Mother. I am not a dog, Ethan, on which you can conduct experiments. I don't like being a doctor, huh? Her mother asked calmly, What do you like? Camille didn't sense the trick and began to talk passionately about her dream profession. Mom, I want to go to the University of Culture. First you can finish school, and then you can apply to the university by correspondence. It seems to me that this is a reasonable decision, because I have a music school behind me. I've been practicing vocals for a long time. Vanessa didn't let her daughter speak until the end. She slammed her fist down on the table with all her might. As long as I'm alive, I won't let my daughter appear on stage for the amusement of the public. No one's stopping you from singing. You can sing at home, but you can't make a living at it. You have to get a normal specialty. Tears came to my eyes, but I held them back, because I didn't want to show my weakness in front of my mother. But she did not lose hope to defend her right to her mother's choice. Without art, life will be dull and dreary. There's a reason they say that songs build. Vanessa once again smashed her fist on the tabletop and said clearly that I will not let you disgrace yourself and embarrass me. And what did you come up with? She wanted to be an artist. Her mother came out of the kitchen because of her bad joints. She had a heavy gait. And Camilla was subconsciously afraid of turning in to the same formidable, hard-to-move creature. Over the years, she cried by the sink, smearing tears on her face, and whispered to her ESO that she wouldn't go to medical school. In the morning, Vanessa remained completely silent, as if her daughter was nothing. But as Camille headed into the hallway, she shouted after her, "If you listen to him, you won't get a penny. You'll have to earn your own living." This threat was worse than the previous ones, because the girl had no one but her mother, so she was completely dependent on her parents. After all, the girl knew nothing about her father, and when she tried to find out something about him from her mother, she answered in short, "You have no father." Knowing Mother Camille's difficult character, I did not pester her with questions. But one day at the market, she met a former neighbor who had lived with them in the same apartment before the renovation. Camille did not know the woman's real name, but she remembered that everyone called her Emily. The neighbor recognized her immediately. "Oh, Camille, you're all grown up and you look just like your mother. You look just like your mother. How are you?" Our house is still standing. Moa told me about the renovation and their humble life. By the way, she asked me if your mother never remarried. That question surprised the girl very much. No, she didn't. Why do you ask? Emily answered defiantly. Because Vanessa is like a pig in oranges, overdoing it. Her lawful husband didn't please her. She sent him away. But there were other suitors from you too. Although she was courted by very respectable men. The girl asked timidly, "What did my husband displease my mother?" Aunt Lyally doomedly waved her hand. "Proud she you have too cheated a man once." And she didn't forgive him. He went and begged her, crawled on his knees, but she wouldn't forgive him. Borka took off and left. Where is he now? Nobody knows. The former neighbor was silent for a few seconds, and then stared at Camille in surprise. Didn't your mother tell you anything about your father? The girl shook her head negatively. No, she didn't. Emily rolled her eyes. And your father was a very prominent man. He was a paramedic on the ambulance. That's where the rumor got out that he was tangling with the station manager. Mine was very unpleasant to listen to the gossip of a bygone era, and she hurried to say goodbye to the former neighbor. Emily said resentfully, not even a human conversation. Well, if you're in a hurry, I dare not keep you. Say hello to your mother. Camille decided not to tell her mother anything about the meeting with her neighbor, after which she understood Vanessa's attachment to medicine. The girl's heart trembled with invisible strings, and she thought that's why my mother so persistently convinced me that the profession of a doctor is the most worthy. Maybe I should really try my hand at it. At least I'll be able to please my mom with something. Despite Camille's good grades, Taylor didn't qualify for medical school. One of the girls they were picking up the applications with shared her plan. I don't want to waste a whole year. I'll go to school. This decision seemed reasonable to Camille, and she also applied to medical school, and in September she was enrolled in the nursing department. But she did not manage to get a nursing diploma. When she was in her second year of study, Vanessa became ill. Her illness became so acute that she could hardly move around the apartment. Mine had to drop out of school because her mom needed constant care. She couldn't work, and they didn't want to give her disability, so Mine had to look for a job herself. Through acquaintances, she got a job as a nurse in a city hospital. After her shift, she came home, where her sick mother was waiting for her. Vanessa could not accept the fact that she was not able to perform elementary tasks on her own. Every night she cried and apologized to my daughter. I'm a nuisance to you. Because of me, you dropped out of school and can't organize your life. You should have left me. Of course, Vanessa realized that her daughter would never leave her, but her daily lamentations pressed on the girl and drove her to complete despair. Often bad thoughts were put into her head. When will it all end? I won't be able to get up with Wendy anytime soon. My torment lasted a little over 2 years. One day she returned from work and did not immediately realize that the apartment was sepulchral silence. The girl responded from the doorstep, "Mom, I'm home!" But no one answered her. And we realized that the worst had happened and she no longer had a mother. The shock was so strong that she sat motionless for several hours. Neighbors helped with the funeral of the girl. The ceremony was extremely modest, as Taylor lived from paycheck to paycheck. Camille realized the extent of her losses only a few days after the funeral. She came home from work and was greeted by a ringing silence. And at that moment, she realized that never again in her life would she and her mother drink tea in the kitchen, and never again would she hear her mother's stern voice. As Camille, before you do anything, you should think 10 times. A volcanic avalanche of grief washed over her fragile shoulders, and she burst into tears. Mommy, I just realized how much I love you. Why did you leave me? All alone? There is no telling how long Camille would have recovered if it hadn't been for Ethan Moore. The young man worked at the Lifter Hospital and laid it all out for the pretty girls. Ethan's exploits on the love front were legendary, but Camille wasn't interested in that side of the pretty boy's life. She just enjoyed chatting with the cheerful Lifter. Ethan often helped the girl to take out bags of garbage or deliver laundry to the laundry room. When Moore learned of his friend's grief, he was the first to offer to help her. Camille, don't be shy. Tell me how I can help you. And the girl saw in the guy not a lover, but a friend, always ready to give his strong shoulder. Despite the youth of both, in their relationship was not unbridled passion. Sometimes they went to the movies, and then drank tea in the kitchen, and Moore told funny stories of his army life. One day Camille herself suggested to Ethan stay. The boy asked understandingly, "Are you still afraid to be alone?" The girl nodded. "I can't get used to my mom being gone. I think I'll go into that room and see her sitting in her chair knitting. My mom loved to knit. She made gorgeous things. But she never had time to prove the vest to me." Suddenly Ethan drew her to him. "If you want, I'll protect you." The girl blindly believed that she would be happy with Ethan. And indeed, for the first few years, the young lived in perfect harmony. The only thing that marred their prosperous happiness was the man's addiction to strong drinks. At first, he tried to hide his addiction from his young wife. Then he got a little bolder and began to come home in a semi-conscious state. One day, after another raucous party with friends, Ethan had trouble waking up. In the morning, he complained of a headache and asked Camille to pour me a piece of paper, or else I would give up and Slavka would be an orphan. This request was flatly refused. "Ethan, do you want me to destroy our family with my own hands?" husband shouted. "I asked nicely." "You think I can't find a place to drink?" Ethan slammed the door so hard it woke up little Benjamin. My mother's funeral reminded me of that knock. And she saw some symbolism in it. However, her feminine intuition did not fail her. As it later turned out, Ethan had stopped by on his way to work and had a good hangover. To his misfortune, during his shift, an elevator with people stuck between floors. Morse tried to set the unit in motion, but he was having no luck. He had to call the supervisor for help. That's when it was discovered that the elevator operator was drunk. Mine begged the bosses to keep her husband on the job. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. The super didn't want to hear the defense. Camille systematically drinking on the job. Personally, I've reprimanded him more than once, but he's all wood. Personally, I sympathize with you, but I can't help you. The head was fired. After that, he started drinking even more. And then it got to the point where he raised his hand against his wife and little son. The woman couldn't take it anymore and filed for divorce. In my heart, I still hoped that Ethan would come to his senses and stop drinking. But he liked the dissipated life, and he was not going to change anything. His ex-husband could not find a permanent job, because no one wanted to hire a drunkard. So Ethan had to survive on casual earnings. Moore was not shy to beg money for drinks from his ex-wife. His visits so bored his mother that she dreamed of going somewhere else, just not to see the eternally drunken face of the former spouse. Michael was different, and the young woman reached out to him like a flower to the sunlight. This meeting did not pass without a trace for Liam. The mischievous lights in Camille's eyes penetrated into a man's heart. Revived in the dead hopes of autumn, tried with all his might to overcome this obsession. But the image of a new acquaintance again surfaced before his eyes. For a long time he had not experienced such feelings. But this state was frightening. Autumn reproached aloud to himself Liam. It's time to hit the brakes. Now is not the right time to think about strange women. Is your daughter sick? Thinking about the girl helped the man to regain his composure. He recollected the moments of the last walk with his daughter and thought about how to help her, already falling asleep. Liam remembered Evelyn's attending physician. I should push Dr. Miller again. I don't like his nonchalance. But he didn't have time to do it, because William called him in the morning. Liam, I'm well aware that you're busy. He interrupted him to say something to Evelyn. The doctor reassured him. Don't worry, your daughter's fine. But I have some news for you, so it is advisable that you come to the hospital. The doctor's voice was strained, and he realized that he was in for some not-so-pleasant news. He did not probe the doctor as to the reason for such urgency, again, but promised him, William, within an hour I will be at your place. He was very anxious, and it made his hands tremble. And there was only one thing on his mind. What about Evelyn? Perhaps the medics had figured out the cause of her illness. He couldn't think of anything else as he almost ran to the main entrance of the city hospital. He pressed the elevator button and couldn't wait for the elevator to arrive, because the time dragged on interminably. The corridor of the pediatric ward was filled with the usual bustle of activity for such a place. Smaller children were running back and forth, announcing the space with ringing cries, and mothers with infants, no matter, were walking around the hall decorated with positive pictures. Autumn was in the wrong mood to enjoy the touching scenes. He was in a hurry to get to his daughter's room, where perhaps in these minutes her fate was being decided. Liam ran down the corridor, trying to maneuver between other road users. An unexpected obstacle appeared on his way, and he became indignant. Where to go, Philharmonic? A quick glance was enough to recognize the owner of the ebullient soprano, that is, Madam Wilson. Evelyn's roommate from yesterday was apparently eager to avenge her loss. The day before, she had adopted an expressive pose and rested her hands on her lush sides. Autumn wanted to bypass an opposing from the flank, but she unraveled his maneuver. Why are you running, composer, or are you scared? Liam muttered half-heartedly. You guessed it. Your figure alone inspires me with a wild fear. Wilson did not understand the true meaning of the phrase, and solemnly from the advertisement. That's the same. You can't quarrel with me. It's better to be friends with me. The companies of mothers hummed approvingly, but Autumn was already far away from them. The door of the room where Evelyn was lying was slightly ajar, and Liam immediately noticed the presence of an unfamiliar doctor who was examining the little patient. The daughter was the first to notice the appearance of her father, and with a joyful cry rushed to him. Daddy, how good it is that you came! See, a new doctor has come to see me? Miller smiled strainedly. Evelyn beat me to it. Liam, meet Jacob. I asked the professor to examine your daughter. I'm hoping he can help us make a proper diagnosis. The professor looked around the room with an important look, and Michael nodded a greeting, thinking, why do all celebrities have names that break your tongue? William felt like the master of the situation, as evidenced by his confident voice. Jacob has already had time to read the results of Evelyn's latest examinations and has made his first conclusions. But I think we'd better talk to the resident about it. He didn't have time to answer anything, but Miller left the professor's room, followed him. Evelyn, please. She looked at her father. Daddy, I'm not going to die. This question pierced his heart and cut off his breath. He stood still for a moment and then picked his daughter up in his arms and pulled her close to him. No, we're good. You're going to live happily ever after. And your daddy will do everything possible, and even impossible for that. The girl exhaled with relief. Daddy, you're the best. Autumn, touched so much that he almost let a tear fall. But from the corridor came demanding Liam, where are you lost? Do you have time to talk to your daughter later? The professor has a very limited time. Don't keep him waiting at the window with a peck on the cheek. I'll be right back. The conversation with the medical luminaries took no more than 5 minutes. I barely had time to sit down on the edge of the chair before the professor, without the traditional introduction in such cases, said, I won't give you hope because I have no moral right to do so. According to the results of the tests, Brown tapped his finger on the stack of documents in front of him and continued with sadness in his voice. Everything says that your daughter has a rare disease. I'll tell you right away that the chances are practically nil. Most often, the pathology runs in a latent form, which is favorable for the patient. But in the case of your daughter, we are dealing with a reactive form, which means that the condition of the baby will rapidly deteriorate. so you should prepare for the worst. Michael lost the ability to control himself. He jumped up from his chair and screamed, "How can you say such a thing? I don't believe you. My daughter will live." Miller threw a glare at Michael. "Liam, get a hold of yourself." "Jacob, I'm sorry." Huh? Brown sluggishly brushed off the master of the room.
William, is that a normal reaction?
"You'd yell at me too if I said that about your child." The professor turned to Michael. "But you, Liam, didn't hear me through. I've been in medicine for almost 40 years, and I know that even 100th or 1,000th probability of success should be used to save a patient's life." He listened to the professor and did not notice the warm rivulets running down his cheeks. "Professor, if you need money, I'm ready to pay. Just tell me how much." Brown grinned, good-naturedly. "You will need exactly as much as you need to get from Colpino to St. Petersburg. The rest of the expenses will be known as the action progresses, but I'm sure they won't be a burden on your budget." The professor got up from the chair that Miller had obligingly given him. "I'm sorry, but I have to go. I'll be expecting you at the clinic of our institute next Monday. William will give you the address." A little slower than the professor, sadly said I was initially against paid medicine. Such services put people in an unequal position, and for a sick person, this inequality is fraught with the most terrible consequences. "It's not fair." Brown walked out of the order. Kravtsov gave a friendly pat on the shoulder. "Liam, let's hope for the best. My intuition tells me that everything will be fine." Putin did not answer anything, although after talking to the professor, he had hoped that his daughter would live and be happy. He returned to the ward where Evelyn was waiting for him eagerly. "Daddy, are we going for a walk today?" Although he had a few important things to do at work, he couldn't refuse his daughter. "Yes, my dear. Now you and I will go for a walk, if the nurse will let us." "On duty?" At the post was not yesterday's girl, but an elderly nurse. After listening to Michael, she said good-naturedly, "Sure, go for a walk." It's good for the girl to breathe the air. And in general, sick babies need positivity. The more they are happy, the faster they get better. Michael had heard such statements before, but had not paid much attention to them. During his absence, Evelyn had managed to pull on her blouse. Seeing the gleam in her eyes, Liam suddenly suggested, "Daughter, do you like secrets?" The girl even held her breath for a moment. "Daddy, do you have a secret?" "And you're about to find out." "You and I will not take the elevator, but we will go down to the first floor by a secret staircase." Evelyn excitedly exclaimed, "Whoa, wow!" The girl was eager to experience the secret staircase herself, and she ran ahead of her father. Together, they cautiously traversed a few flights and found themselves in front of a door painted with floor paint. This door made a startling impression on Evelyn. Like in Pinocchio's fairy tale, if we open this door, we will enter a magical land. Autumn hesitantly muttered, "Hopefully, daughter, we will be able to open it." Yesterday, Camille said that during the day, this door is always open. He gripped the handle confidently, and the door creaked open. Evelyn clapped her hands. "Daddy, you're a real wizard. Now we're going to be greeted by fairies and houses." But behind the door waited for them not the inhabitants of fairyland, but a young woman in a white robe. She exclaimed in surprise, "You! Did you enjoy yesterday's adventure so much that you decided to repeat it?" Liam did not expect to meet a new acquaintance so soon and was embarrassed. "My daughter and I decided to take a little walk." Mine extended her hand to the girl. "Let's get acquainted. My name is Camille. What's yours?" The little girl answered proudly, "I'm Evelyn Michael." Camille noted with obvious satisfaction. "Well, we've met. I didn't even ask your name yesterday. It was awkward." "So you're Liam?" The man answered hastily. "You can say it without a middle name." The woman's eyes flashed with mischievous light again. And Liam, like yesterday, felt a pleasant warmth under his heart. He really wanted to continue the conversation, but he didn't know what to say. Evelyn broke the awkward pause. I had a new doctor today. He's very old, but he's kind. Moy squatted down in front of the girl. Evelyn, you must be bored alone in the room. Oh, the girl sighed heavily. I am not alone. Alice is sick too, but she goes to play in the other room. She's big. She's not interested in me at all. We asked Adrasi sympathetically. So you didn't make any friends in the hospital? The little girl waved her arms amusedly to the sides. Not in daycare. I have many friends here, not mine. Looked expressively at Liam. We need to rectify the situation immediately. If your dad doesn't mind, I'll introduce you to Benjamin. He asked, Daddy doesn't mind. Is Benjamin your son? The woman nodded. Yes, he's 8 now. He's a very independent boy. His dream is to be a pediatric doctor. After school, he comes to my workplace, though she was not what you'd call beautiful in May. But when she spoke, her face transformed. Liam looked at her, catching himself in the thought that he was very pleased to listen to this woman. Mine smelled of warmth and comfort, that is, everything that every man appreciates. He called Evelyn's room number and said meaningfully, I hope this isn't the last time we'll meet. Camille blushed. I hope so too. Evelyn played enthusiastically on the playground. Several times she ran up to her father to ask him, when is my son coming to see me? The girl also wondered why her father's acquaintance walked around with a bucket instead of giving sick people shots. Evelyn thought that only doctors and nurses Michael worked in the hospital had to expand her knowledge in this area, and he told her about the heroic janitor Noah who chases hooligans. The father's story brought the girl into complete delight, and the man thought, probably this nurse is right. Today, Evelyn enjoys the little things and has never once complained of feeling unwell. Benjamin Michael saw the next day. Liam, as usual, came to the hospital after work to visit his young daughter. He immediately noticed that there was no trace of her positive mood. Evelyn was rubbing her lobby with her hand and complaining. Yesterday was good, and today again. Today I have a headache and don't feel like eating at all. Liam tried to rouse the girl. And maybe we should go for a walk. Evelyn shook her head negatively. I don't want to go out. I'd rather sit for a while. Michael agreed. Okay, you lie down and I'll sit next to you. Suddenly, the girl asked Daddy, let's sing me a song. Okay, let's have a request concert for you. What song does my little princess want to hear about the Good Fairy or Crocodile Gino? No, Daddy, sing me about horses and steamboats that go away and come back. Liam was puzzled by such a request. Where did you hear such a song? Evelyn shrugged her shoulders. I don't know. Autumn didn't have time to edit the concert program because there was a gentle knock on the door of the room. Evelyn immediately forgot about the headache that had given her. She rounded her eyes in surprise and said in a whisper, Papa, it must be Camille. Can I meet her? The girl jumped from the bed to the floor, but while she woke up, Liam managed to pick her up in time. My little girl, you mustn't make any sudden movements. I'll see who's there. He headed for the door, and soon she entered the room. Moi? Here we are, as promised. Benjamin, where did you get lost? Following his mother, a kindly little boy timidly entered the room. He said hello, quietly, and sat down on the chair beside the bed. Without any embarrassment, the little girl said, I thought you were coming yesterday, like old acquaintances, Benjamin replied. I was at Wendy's yesterday. That's our neighbor. She's very kind, but she is sick too. Wendy is teaching me how to speak English. Do you know English words? Evelyn said disappointedly. No, I'm still young. I'm only in kindergarten, Benjamin said optimistically. You'll grow up and go to school. I went to kindergarten too, Evelyn said sadly. What if I don't live to go to school because I'm sick? Benjamin moved closer to the girl. I was sick when I was little too. And then I got better. And you got better too? And my mom says doctors are so smart now, they make any illnesses magnified. I too, when I grow up, will be a doctor. The girl looked at the boy with respect. That look cheered Benjamin up. Do you want me to be friends with you? Hey! Evelyn nodded her head cheerfully. I want to be friends with you. Big girls don't want to be friends. It's boring alone. I must be sick. So Benjamin resolutely birthed his palm and handed the girl an unusually shaped pin. Here, take it. It wasn't Wendy who gave it to her. She said it was a lucky pin. Evelyn asked in surprise. Didn't you want it? No, nothing's too good for a friend. I'm healthy. Are you sick? You need it more. The girl looked at the present with admiration. Benjamin was also proud of what he had done. Just in case, he advised to put it under the pillow so that it would not get lost. This short dialogue immediately brought the kids, who met for the first time in the hospital room, closer to each other. The adults watched in amazement as the kids skillfully build bridges of friendship. Mine, she whispered discreetly. Why is everything so easy when you're a kid? Liam replied. Because children do everything sincerely. There is almost always self-interest in the actions of adults. Everyone tries to get a big profit for himself. The woman looked at him with interest. You and I have almost the same way of thinking about life. It turns out that we are like-minded. Personally, that's the best news I've gotten all day. Not counting meeting this nice young man, of course. Liam nodded toward Benjamin, who was giving Evelyn instructions on how to use the lucky pin. Although the trip to St. Petersburg had been planned, the packing had been rushed. The single father was thrashing around the apartment, packing everything he needed, but everything fell out of his hands. Evelyn watched him for a long time, and then sadly said, Daddy, you're not doing anything. Everything is falling out of your hands. You should call Grandma Emily or Camille. Michael rejoiced. Are you a daughter? You've given me a brilliant idea. Liam dialed the number of her acquaintance, and soon she arrived with her son. Only after the arrival of the guests, Michael realized that Evelyn, giving him useful advice, had a purpose. She wanted to see the boy who had given the amulet to his mother and son, once again. The woman couldn't hide her excitement as she said goodbye. Liam, don't think about anything bad. Everything will be fine, and Evelyn will be fine. Autumn again felt the pleasant warmth and walking from this young woman. Thank you for your good wishes. I, too, hope that Professor Brown will help us. Basically, he is our last hope. The expression on my face changed dramatically. Liam, don't ever say that. Even in the most dead-end situation, one must hope for the best. The woman crouched down next to Evelyn and suddenly asked, Want me to sing you a nice song? The little girl's eyes sparkled. I want mine. She sang in a low voice. And Michael was amazed at the competent performance
of this once popular song. The wooden horses galloped away, the steamer wheeled, the paper ones sailed away. Evelyn listened with her mouth open. When Camille finished speaking, the girl said, Papa, I asked you to sing this song. I dreamt about it.
Liam felt uncomfortable, and his changed state did not escape Camille's scrutiny. What is it, Liam? He answered in a low whisper. This song was often hummed by my late wife, but Evelyn was only 3 years old when she passed away. Did she memorize it? Children's memory is selective. Babies remember the highlights, so it's not surprising that Evelyn remembered her mother's songs. My mom also loved to sing, and I dreamed of becoming an artist. And then she changed her dream, and now I have a bucket and mops at my disposal. My last words were spoken with undisguised bitterness. Liam really wanted to cheer her up, but there was no time to talk because they announced the departure of their train. Michael promised I would call you for sure. The train started. With each passing minute, the clatter of the wheels grew louder and louder. Michael remembered Camille's clear voice and thought about her last words. You can't give up your dream. Liam could not leave his little daughter alone in a strange city. He prearranged a vacation for the period of his daughter's treatment and rented a room in an inexpensive hotel at the clinic where Jacob worked. Evelyn had to undergo a new examination. Michael anxiously awaited the verdict of the doctors, but he was surprised when Brown himself appeared in the room and with a smile said, Liam, you can relax because your daughter is in no danger. I mean, almost nothing. Fortunately, my suspicions were not justified, which was confirmed by a detailed diagnosis. Michael was puzzled. If that was true, then why was Evelyn losing consciousness and her constant headaches? The professor wagged his finger cheerfully. Liam, you seem to be a grown man, but you act like a schoolboy. I've noticed that you're always trying to run ahead of the cart. You didn't let me finish my thought again. Liam began to apologize. I'm sorry, Professor. These months my nerves are always on edge. That's why I'm hiding, huh? Tell me, what's wrong with my girl? The professor paused beautifully. Medically, there's nothing wrong. Just a minor malformation of one of the heart valves. The girl's heart wasn't doing its job, hence the lack of oxygen. That explains the unpleasant symptoms. And how do we fix it? That's what you and I have to figure out now. You know, I'm in favor of radical methods, and I suggest surgery. Of course, you can keep the baby on medication for a while. But you realize that it will not be without health consequences. Surgery. What is the advantage of such a method? In the fact, dear Liam, that the defect will be immediately eliminated and your daughter's health will improve? In favor of surgical treatment and the fact that children better tolerate surgery and recover quickly. And today such operations are carried out with gentle methods, which is also a significant plus. But I don't insist. You have the final word. All evening, Michael thought about the professor's words. He realized that not only his life, but also his daughter's health depended on his decision. He had an urge to call her mother, but he quickly dismissed the thought. I must decide for myself. After a sleepless night, he arrived at the Institute clinic early. Brown was not surprised to see him outside his office. I assume, Liam, that you didn't close your eyes last night. Moore sighed. You guessed the professor. I thought about it for a long time, and realized you were right. But also, Cherednichenko will prepare the girl for surgery. And pretty soon, you'll be able to go home. These 03 Woro, which he spent under the doors with a laconic inscription operating room, seemed to him the most terrible in life. Even when his wife Athena was between life and death, he wasn't as worried as he was now. He tried to walk, but it only got more heated. Nerves stretched to the limit to no purpose at all. He suddenly remembered from himself the sad song about horses and ships, which Evelyn liked so much, and he began to hum softly. Only worth turning around, to us wooden horses gallop and paper ships return. His quiet singing attracted a nurse from the intensive care unit. She cheered him up. Don't worry so much. Everything will be fine because our doctors have golden hands. Oh. Finally, Jacob came out. Liam, it's all over now? The operation was a success. The professor grinned. I don't believe in all kinds of talismans, but look what our real Oleg found in your daughter's hand. She clutched that pin so tightly in her fists that we could hardly extract it. In the palm of the professor's hand, close to the body, a familiar pin. Take it and keep it as a memento. As Professor Brown had promised, Evelyn was on the mend quite quickly. The girl had a good appetite. Her exodus, which gave her face, crushed. Autumn could not be happy about the positive changes and reported daily to her grandmother Emily and Camille about the condition of her daughter. They placed the happy shop with Evelyn in a velvet box that Olson had purchased at a jewelry store. Here, daughter, is your greatest treasure. When you become an adult, you will take out this box one day and remember the boy who gave you this talisman. Evelyn asked Daddy in surprise, "Will we never see Aunt Camille and Benjamin again?" He answered uncertainly, "I guess we will when we get home. Why did you ask me that? Because you make it sound like we're staying here forever." And anyway, Daddy, I want to tell you that you and I are bored with each other. It's too bad I only have a grandmother and no mommy. From the unknown confession of his little girl. Michael understood a lot of things. Of course, partly he was a little hurt that with all his efforts, he had never been able to completely replace the girl's mother. But then he realized that this is an impossible task, because each of the parents in the family fulfills its mission. 2 years of agency have greatly changed the man's character. Deep down, he was afraid to tie his fate to a woman he hardly knew. But his heart wanted love, and he once submitted to this desire. It was soon after their return with his daughter from St. Petersburg. He fed Evelyn supper, read her a fairy tale, and put her to bed. The clock showed only 9:30. "It's baby time. I don't know what to do to occupy myself. Maybe take a walk." Michael went into the hallway and started to dress, but the desire to walk alone was gone. He sat down on the nightstand and wrapped his arms around his head. Green. It was the kind of life that would soon kill me. It was a moment of despair, and Liam wanted to do something daring to get rid of that unpleasant feeling. He grabbed his cell phone and dialed a familiar number. Moy answered him right away.
"Liam, I'm so glad you called." I thought you'd disappeared for good or forgotten me," he laughed. "How could I forget a woman who knows all the secret staircases and sings beautifully? How would you, my dear, like
To take a little walk before bedtime?" There was a tinkling, bell-like laugh. All in all, I look favorably on such a suggestion. But I have to check the lessons of my little man of science. He felt a pleasant excitement in his chest. "When should I pick you up?" "In half an hour at the earliest." Liam hesitated for a long time before calling his mother, but he didn't dare leave Evelyn alone in the apartment. Mother was surprised to get such a late call. "Liam, is something wrong?" He jokingly replied, "Yes, Mom. Something unimaginable has happened, and I need your help urgently." The old woman got worried. "What's wrong with Evelyn? Don't bore me." Liam laughed. "No, Mom, your granddaughter is fine. She's asleep, and I, unlike her, can't find a place to sleep." "Yeah, what is it, son? Are you sick now, too?" "No, Mom, I'm not sick, but I think I'm in love." He expected to hear his mother's grumbling or reproachful words, but she sighed with obvious relief. "At last, I thought that you would be a loner for the rest of your life." Everything was going well, and Michael felt the invigorating energy of anticipation fill his body again. He turned in his mother's shift and went on his first real date in years. Of course, on the way, he didn't forget to stop by the flower store where he bought a luxurious bouquet of tea roses. 2 years passed, and Benjamin was holding the hand of Evelyn, who was trying to get ahead. The boy kept admonishing the girl, "You wear everything like a gorilla, and that's indecent. I can imagine what the guests might think of you." Evelyn snapped back. "They won't think anything like that." "And you, Benjamin, you're a bore. You think because you're 3 years older than me, you can be bossy?" The boy calmly replied, I'm not bossing you around. I'm only advising you. You don't want to let Mommy and Daddy down, do you? Come on, Evelyn, Evelyn agreed. I don't want to. Well, then behave yourself. And don't forget to give Mommy flowers at the end. They walked up to the high porch of the Philharmonic and looked proudly at the posters, with Camille's portrait on them. On the poster in large print was written soulful songs about love and spring. Benjamin looked expressively at Evelyn. This is Mom's first concert. She's dreamed of it all her life. Evelyn exhaled. It's good that dreams come true. I wish it could always be like this. 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 Could always be like